Hi, it's Lee at Love's Beginning with a talk called Spirit Figures It Out. The first statement is you, as separate you, don't have to figure anything out. You can drop the struggle and strain and even the pleasure of that. Spirit does all the figuring, and then you receive thoughts that are easy to follow. So this is interesting from a pleasure standpoint, to watch the transformation of what I believed was pleasurable into a recognition of the strain involved in that. Just in the idea of I need it, or I'm not fulfilled now, but if I acquire or get or experience this thing from a beginning to an end, then I'll be fulfilled. So that's an interesting thing to watch and look at and see dissolve. Does it mean we don't witness the me character going after pleasures in life, or does it mean we don't witness our own judgments of other characters? They are seeking pleasures, or this character, I am seeking pleasures. No, it's, it's all unfolding, and it can be witnessed and judged, but those judgments are ego's thoughts, and they become more and more meaningless. At the same time, though, we can witness all the thoughts that seem to happen as we approach what the ego tells us is a pleasure that we want, and we can watch and see then, okay, here's the point of satisfaction, and how does that feel? It's an interesting process. It's like, as I see and witness more of the ego's thoughts, everything it goes in slow motion, so I can witness these thoughts, and the thoughts become more important than the experience, because I can see, oh, I believed that, and that's not necessary, and I can let it go. So every moment has an opportunity. The struggle, the strain, that is pleasure. We struggle and strain after what we believe to be pleasurable. And the you, the me, that figures things out, it struggles and it strains to try to get its way, but its way is not our way. There's an our way that's a shared way. And if I wait it out, if I hear the ego thoughts, no, they're insane, wait, do my work with those, then the voice of spirit can come in and direct me in our way, rather than just the voice of the insane separate self. So I'm grateful that it's easier to recognize when I put the voice of the insane, also non-existent separate self in charge of speaking and acting. Okay. The transition from the making of a nightmare to the making of a happy dream is planned and carried out by actual you, in unison with all, never by separate you. Separate you planning and carrying out feels like stress and strain. So the transition from the making of a nightmare to the making of a happy dream is planned and carried out by actual you, in unison with all, never by separate you. So as long as we're experiencing time and space, we're believing thoughts, and then we're experiencing on that basis. We're headed into making a happy lie, because we have to see that everything's harmless. And in the happy dream, everything becomes harmless, and also still meaningless. The true meaning shines through it. We are this true meaning, and it's always, what is real always shines, always exists, always is rememberable. And it shines through this transparent happy dream. The happy dream is still meaningless. It's what we eventually let go of. But we have to get shown how to make this reflection of harmlessness. How? Through our thoughts and our perceived voice and our perceived actions, and the perceived voice and actions of all those we call others, no exceptions, come into alignment with this harmless happy dream. That's how it works. So this is not done by a separate me, it's done by us, by the one we are. And I start to see that when we are in you and in everyone, with no exceptions. So separate you planning and carrying out feels like stress and strain. This is the week in the United States where we have Thanksgiving dinner, and people can stress out around the holidays. So holidays can be a learning opportunity. I'm pausing. Okay, I thought my recording paused, but I think I'm okay. Holidays can be a learning opportunity because that is when the stresses and strains can reveal themselves if we're trying to make an ideal or conform to some established ideal, or to please ourselves or please others, or avoid displeasing ourselves or displeasing others, or to try to get others to conform with an ideal or an idea of how things should be. All of that, all this pressure we put on something that seems to be separate from us. We put on people who seem to be separate from us, and to let all of this surface and go and realize, oh, it's meaningless. Does that mean we don't gather for a meal? No, we may very well gather for a meal, but every step up to and throughout the eating of the meal together is the opportunity to notice and release, and to allow what truly is here to direct the perceived speech, the perceived actions, to be very aware of the thinking. Okay, every moment is a moment to calibrate. There is what is actually here, and there is what you may judge positively or negatively on the surface. You can always tune in and find your unison with what is actually here, under all surfaces, with no exceptions. If I'm going to shoot ahead on some errand, I've given myself in alignment with some objective, the false sense of separate me seems to have given this body, I'm lost for a while, until I decide to come back to myself. And more I can feel when I'm striking off on my own. No matter how often I do it, I can notice that's what's happening. Let's see, where am I? Every moment is a moment to calibrate. So there is something to come into the frequency of. Calibrate, fine-tuning, adjusting, right? Before I speak or act in any way in my perception, it seems important to calibrate, to make sure, what is here? Am I in alignment with what is actually here? Under the surface drama, under any idea I would have about who you are, who I am, what needs to get done, what anything is, under any ideas of analysis and judgment, positive or negative, ego would give me about what seems to be here in time and space. This beautiful, unified shining underneath it all. As I'm aware of it, I calibrate with it. As I make it the most important thing, not any seen as separate aspects in time and space. This unified shining that's always here, underneath the surface drama of back and forth and positive and negative. If I calibrate with that and intentionally put that in charge as many times a day as I need to do that, then it becomes obvious to me, this apparently separate me, that words are given me to speak. Actions are given me to do. And they're effortless, they're easy, they're obvious, because they're so simple, because they're actually carried out by not separate me. There is, in all of us, there is the unified us, and that unified us can carry out any perceived speech, any perceived action. And as we calibrate with what's actually here, what's shining and unified under the surface of any time and space drama you find yourself in, as we calibrate with us, with that, with what's real, then we notice that we can just flow with this us, this unified capital S self, and then the speech and the action just seem to come. We're witnessing. So we're looking at a dream, and the dream ends happily. It transforms from a nightmare into a happy dream, and then we remember we never needed a dream, and we wake up. So it's nice to have that flow and the opportunity to calibrate. So there's what is actually here, and there's what you may judge positively or negatively on the surface. So when I'm in the middle of judging positively or negatively on the surface, it's very helpful to remember what I'm judging positively or negatively on the surface isn't actually there. It's what I'm dreaming. It's what I'm dreaming about. But what is actually here? It can't be judged positively. It can't be judged negatively. It isn't divided in any way. It isn't judgeable. It is just real. It is just here all the time. And it's not of space. It's not of anything separate. And there is nothing powerful than this unified presence. And this unified presence is what is real about any character we encounter in the drama, no matter how apparently bad or good it seems to be, according to the terms of judgment of the drama. That's meaningless. It's the same capital S self underneath every surface. You can always tune in and find your unison with what is actually here, under all surfaces, with no exceptions. So to make no exceptions, I have to set all positive and negative ego judgments aside, to rest in what is here. And then there's a self-interest in that. If I do rest in what is here, what to say and what to do are clear and simple and given. And that's a very restful state to be in. So more and more I remember to take the time to rest in this state and to let everything come from that. You can busy yourself commenting on what seems to be here, or you can tune into and join what is actually here. So to just be with everybody, let's say you're in the midst of a busy situation that looks like there's a lot of action, but to not judge any of the action and to just be is something we learn. And it takes time. That's what time is for. As we allow our minds to heal, we learn to just be here. And if there's a part to play in the drama, it's clear and obvious and flows. But sometimes it's just to be here and enjoy and appreciate with no positive or negative judgment about what seems to be going on, because we remember our joined, unified, capital S self. And there's nothing wrong with that forever joined, unified, loved, loving, capital S self. So that means there's nothing wrong with any of the small s selves that seem to be here in this situation. It's just a dream. It's just flowing along, and I don't have to judge it. If you treat something of time or space as real, you replicate it. So time, that fun thing, time. The more I act and react as if the seemingly separate aspects of space and time are real, the more I replicate the experience of kind of having to battle my way through seemingly separate aspects of space and time, and eventually we get tired of it. And as we get tired of that, we remember it's all a dream, and we remember our option to remember our shared capital S, always unified, always loving, always loved self. And so we make a practice out of remembering that as often as we can, because that's where we find rest. We don't find rest in a positive judgment of ego. We don't find rest in a negative judgment of what appears to be something else that would ensure us our relatively positive status over here. There's no rest. There's no rest there. But remembering our shared self and what can come from this shared self, what's available to everybody right now through this shared self, the beauty of that shared self that's far beyond any beauty that seems to be of time or space. When we remember that we have a place to rest, all the time. For every moment of time we still seem to experience. So I'm wishing you happy healing, wishing you well, wishing you happy rest, and thank you.